The movie begins in a forest where David is walking through. He runs into a tiger under a tree and they lock eyes. He then finds an opening through a tree and goes through and gets into a shelter where people dressed as monks live. An older bald man dressed in orange asks him what he's doing here, and David replies that he wants to be a student. He wants to learn how to control his thoughts and where they come from. He confesses that he's done something bad and needs to fix it. In Los Angeles, California, David asks Melanie to take care of dinner that night, to which she tells him she's tired, so he offers to go out instead. She agrees. Helping his daughter with her science project, David tells her about chemical reactions. David picks Ryan up from his grandma's place and they go to campus. In class, Ryan gossips about a new girl to David when their lecturer sees him and asks about the subject. Ryan mocks the lecture, but David answers the question confidently and gets back to his notebook. On their way out from the laboratory to David's house, Ryan runs after Jordan and her friend to talk to them. As David was getting his computer out of his car, a man approached him and told him his 2 months' rent was overdue and that the landlord handled the situation for them. In his garage, David was getting things ready when Ryan walked in with Jordan to introduce them. But David starts to freak out, asking why Ryan told her about their secret research when even his wife doesn't know about it. All she has to do is make one phone call and the school will know about missing equipment and unauthorized experiments and they'll be done. But Ryan asks if everything's okay with Melanie. Ryan convincingly explains that Jordan is an expert and she doesn't need to know about the details of their project. Ryan is lying with tubes all over his head while David explains to Jordan what the equipment they're working on does. They are trying to invent a machine that can decode human thought. She is impressed by it, even though David tells her it's only just like training, not the whole thing. She agrees and tells them there is a better way to do it with a way better result if they use nanotubes. Ryan and David both were quite impressed. In another lab, a man is sitting on a couch with a bunch of cables connected to his head. Harry, standing behind a glass, orders a woman on a computer to give the man an order. She puts in the "I'm hungry" command and the man gets up, picks up a sandwich, and starts to eat while sharing some with the dog that's with him. Melanie got ready for a date David had suggested and went to his garage. Jordan opened the door for her and she got suspicious. David tells Melanie that he can't go out today for their date. Sadly, she responds that it wasn't a big deal anyway. At night, as Ryan was leaving to head home, Dave saw him stealing groceries from his fridge, but he kept quiet. Instead, he gave him fruits to take home to his grandma. Ryan gets home and shares a meal with his grandma. Back at the garage, the three of them started to experiment on their project, Ryan being their test subject. Jordan forces David to do the injection on Ryan because he needs to know the procedure in case they need a second test subject. For David to do the injection, they needed some equipment and they went to the campus lab to steal it. David went to Melanie's house and took their TV while promising Lana he would help her with her volcano project. Then they made an X-ray out of it to enhance their procedure. So as David starts with the injection, Jordan goes to Ryan to distract him. He tells her about his mom, how she died of agonizing cancer when he was 16, and his cheating dad goes and gets remarried. While waiting for Ryan, David goes over to Melanie and they have an awkward talk where she confronts him about the TV. But he simply told her they needed it in the garage. In the meanwhile, at the garage, they set all their equipment and waited until Ryan's thoughts showed up on the screen. David excitedly tells them that it works. He just needs to fix some things before they try again. Harry in another lab got information about one of the university leads and has shown progress. He then orders the woman once again to give the test subject a suggestion. She sends a command that says kill the dog. The man grabs the gun and aims at the dog. Harry kept making the commands more insistent, and as the commands kept getting more demanding and the man couldn't take it any longer, he turned the gun on himself and killed himself. Unbothered, Harry says they will need something new. Jordan, David, and Ryan are in the garage still trying to find an output to Ryan's thoughts. When nothing comes up, Ryan gets frustrated and tells them he doesn't need a machine that can decode a thought he had a year ago. They need to have one that can do it in real time. So Jordan suggested that they use a human brain instead of computers, and they decided to test it on her. They eventually start the procedure and it was set that Ryan could hear Jordan's thoughts. The moment David started it, Ryan could hear what was going on in her mind. Once the timer goes off and David rapidly starts asking Ryan how it was, he replies that it was better than sex. Ryan gets up, does a little dance move with Jordan, and announces that they just invented telepathy. Melanie is having a hard time trying to concentrate at work, making a mess, and when she gets home she finds David and his friends celebrating. She confronts him about the new mail about them getting evicted. She starts to get mad at them and leaves, taking Lana with her. David then tells them he only has 2 weeks before the eviction and that they need to come up with something solid for the project before that. The next time they tried their experiment, they used Jordan and David as subjects. Jordan kept thinking about the secret affair she had with David and he unplugged it when he heard what she was thinking. In the other laboratory, Harry is arguing about their project not showing any progress while college students out there are cracking the nut. On another try, David reads to Jordan, testing to see if she can hear it. She tells them she doesn't remember any of the pages he read. Ryan is hysterical, saying he needs the money as soon as possible. David once again lets Lana down with her science project. Ryan and Jordan went to his house so that she could meet his grandma. He walks in first and finds his granny dead in bed. Without saying a word about not even finding the money for her casket, Ryan goes over to David and gives him 2 movie tickets for him and Melanie to go to. He then invites people to sell his project and it works. He gets the money. After their movie night, David took Melanie to show her what he's been working on. He tells her it's a one-way communication, but if it was a two-way it would create a circular feedback loop. In the middle of them testing it, David accidentally thought of his affair with Jordan. Once Melanie knows about that, she leaves while David is trying to tell her nothing happened between them. At the campus, Ryan and Jordan get confronted about the stolen computers. The man mentions a firm talking about an invention that will change the world, and that's how the campus knew about their secret projects. Then they get expelled, and once David gets home he finds his garage raided by police and they both get arrested for the stolen stuff. In jail, Ryan tells David that his granny died and he told him he cashed in behind his back for her casket. David then goes to Melanie's mom and asks to see her. She tells him she needs some space for their marriage to work. She asks which one's more important to him, changing the world or changing them. He then goes back to his garage and finds Jordan and Ryan packing. He apologizes and asks Ryan to stay after a heated argument. Once Ryan and Jordan leave and get in a car, Jordan injects Ryan with something that leaves him passed out. She then goes over to David and does the same. Once they both wake up, they find themselves in a room being interviewed by Harry and Jordan. Harry tells them he's the executive director of Operation Darkbird. Soon David and Ryan start fighting violently over the lies and betrayals they hold against each other. Harry stops them and offers them a deal. Without much of an option, both guys get introduced to the staff members they are working with by Jordan. The next morning, Jordan explains to David that a firm called DS&T found out about their company's breakthrough and Harry is getting every employee an active listener to their thoughts. David then finds files in Dr. Self's office and learns about the true intentions of the company. He talks about it with Jordan, but she dismisses him, saying she can't afford to have suspicious thoughts at work and it is impossible to think of something and another thing simultaneously. David then goes to work the next day and tries to control his thoughts, but Harry finds out about it. David tries to tell Ryan about the files he saw at the office when they leave work. Ryan fights him about how this project will set people free and how they could find a cure for anything. They kept fighting, holding opposing sides of the project. Finally, David tells him that he's leaving. He tried to explain that this project's endgame is implanting thoughts and that gives them complete power, which in return will end freedom. But Ryan decided to see the good aid and he too dismissed him. Harry is in the laboratory when he watches a woman give commands to one of the subjects to kill her sister. The subject pulled the trigger but the gun was empty. The subject silently cries because what she's made to do was pushed upon her and not out of her free will. But for Harry, it meant that their project was finally perfectly done. The next morning, the staff at the lab discovered that David hadn't come. Harry starts throwing tantrums, being suspicious, and all when security tells them David is at the airport. David meets Melanie thinking they'll fix things about their marriage, and he explains what he learned from the company he works to, telling her he can't go back there, but she tells him she needs a divorce. They ran into Jordan and Harry with other men pointing guns at them. Jordan tried to solve the issue by telling everyone since David's a government worker he was on sick leave, and to Harry that he can't accuse someone because they're on their sick day. David then continues to take them to his new home, at which Melanie starts to change her mind about her rushing on the divorce and maybe they should think about it. David is in a rush and he plays loud music while he starts to pack to leave. He signs some papers and leaves Melanie with Lana in the house, telling her to take Lana away as far as possible. David went through the forest to get with the Buddhists and learn how to control his thoughts and where they come from. Now that David's with the Buddhist monks, he learns how to control his thoughts and meditate while adapting their way of living. After a long time, he shows up at Ryan's place and they catch up on what's been going on. Ryan mocks him about his new hairstyle and tells him he's going to propose to Jordan. He mentions that he's the head of the lab too. David tells him he wants to get back to work since that's the only thing he knows how to do. Once he gets back to work, David uploads a virus that allows two-way communication between the listeners and the employees. His meditation habit helps him to control his thoughts when the listeners are trying to reach him to see what he's thinking. Once he hits enter, the two-way communication starts to work and everyone in the lab gets their brains fried. Seeing what's happening, Ryan takes off his head patch, leaving him conscious, and he sees Jordan couldn't take it off right on time, so she passes out. Angry and hurt, Ryan made David open up a head link between them at gunpoint because he wants David to feel how he's feeling. While David is listening to Ryan's thoughts, the police come up and Ryan forces David to open the two-way communication. David obediently does as he's asked. Ryan orders him to draw at the count of 3. Face to face with Ryan, David pushes enter, allowing the two-way communication. At the same time, Ryan starts to shoot at him. The movie ends when a background noise that is like a heartbeat is heard as Ryan and David look eye to eye and Ryan starts to bleed. David draws in a breath right before the screen goes black. With that, the movie ends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.